Number 4 is over-reliance on traditional marketing. Now, we're living in a very digital age right now, and it's not to say that traditional marketing doesn't have its place, but are your brands, or does your brand embrace that kind of digital space? Now, I know that we all kind of work in this area, but Mike in particular, what would you like to say about the traditional versus digital sort of argument here?
I think if we look at the trends and what's going on at the moment and what has been and what's going to continue, and I mean, we haven't seen the numbers really come through from a macro point of view with COVID, but what we're anticipating, and when you start looking at all the revenues from the big guys out there, they've skyrocketed. And that's because the digital scene is just continuing to grow. So for a lot of professional services now, it has been for the past few years, but even more so now, if you're not embracing digital, you're missing out on a huge chunk of advertising opportunities to generate more business. We see it very often that businesses have been built off the referral basis early on, and so they've had these great relationships. They've got a lot of referral business from people that they know, who like and trust them. But then as they sort of grow, you now need to get a bit more sort of structured around how you get business, and just having a referral. Well, it's what you guys were saying before, where you look at it, as you grow, you need that system to keep getting clients and business coming through the door, more than just what you can get through your own professional networks. And that's where we often find two things happen. Either one, businesses tend to go back to the traditional channels and think, okay, well, what about all this print collateral and things that I put together, which is not a bad thing, by the way. It comes
traditional has a space.
It does, absolutely. And from the chart, which everyone will see once the slides go out, is that it's not that traditional is kind of dropping off and digital's taking over.
It's just not growing.
Exactly. So traditional is going to continue where it is, but then digital is obviously where the growth in advertising, and advertising is growing. It's a very competitive world out there.
It's evolving too.
It's evolving.
Absolutely. But if you think about business and sort of the competition, what's going on, and how easy it is now for people to get into business, especially around a lot of professional services, where a lot of it's knowledge-based. It's not the actual infrastructure for the business. It's just what we have in our heads. And so it's not hard for someone to sort of jump out and go it alone. And so with that, you've got to have really strong, solid advertising campaigns and stuff that are generating that business constantly. And that's kind of the competitive edge that occurs when you've got that system set up to keep getting business. New people can come in, and they'll come and then they'll go. That's I guess part of the whole attrition rates that we see in business, where 3 years, 5 years, people are in it, they're trying, and unless they start building systems around their marketing and generating leads, it's just not sustainable, and so then they sort of drop off. And so those really good, solid businesses and the ones that are growing are building good quality, ideally, digital campaigns.
And I think go ahead.
No, sorry, I was just saying, I think everyone that's probably listening can relate to this. I think that was a really good point, is that if we're, as professional services, it's not hard for competitors. There's low barriers of entry. And so having this digital space working for you as you grow will kind of future-proof you. And if you're not doing this is a really important insight. Sorry, Ariel, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say how, mostly if you're a small business or a medium business, being agile and really just jumping into digital and really playing off of that and saying, what platforms fit that audience member that I said, and how can I utilize that? And it's a really exciting time, because you can compete against the big companies. It's not back in the day where you're paying huge money for a TVC and you have to put all this advertising behind this one 30-second ad. Now you have Facebook, you have YouTube.
You use AI.
You can use AI. You can use so many different things that is accessible to everyone. And yes, that makes it a little bit more competitive. But that also means you can get out there as well. And if you're focusing on all the messages we've said about creating that personality and that niche and really making yourself unique, you will stand out by having consistent, advertising on this digital space.
I also think, so a lot of professional services businesses do get a lot of business from referrals. But I think what you've got to recognise now as a professional service provider is that whilst your potential customer might have received a fantastic referral from you, if you believe that they haven't clicked before they've picked up the phone and
Oh,
checked out your website, checked out your social media.
You're very naive.
If you really believe that they haven't done their own due diligence, then I think you will probably struggle to really grow.
They call it the digital interview.
Yeah, it is. It is, and people are getting more and more savvy like that, and they do check and they do their due diligence. There's nothing better than having both camps covered.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than getting an awesome referral, preferably preferably video, but backed up by amazing online presence.
Yeah.
And then, a whole new, doesn't have to be new, but a whole marketing arm that's working for you in the digital space that has that consistent tone of voice.
Yeah, and think about like how if you're a professional service business, think about how you as a customer do your search. So like remove yourself from your industry and think about how you approach other professional services. You do exactly the same, right?
Yeah.
Like as in when you're going to hire a real estate agent, for example, right? You would never just go to the first one and go, see what happens,
fine,
right?
yeah.
And you search everywhere. You look at their reviews, their videos, their previous listings, right? All of that you do. But then unfortunately when we get into our businesses, we think, no, people just look us up. Or like people just refer us and they'll go with us. And like Kristen was saying, everyone is doing that diligence, that digital interview before they call you. And that's
do you think a problem, and I've suffered from this ourselves, of being time poor, is that we go, well, I'm going to be on all the different platforms, and you set yourself up and you put a few posts, and then you just let it lie.
I don't do that.
Well, you don't do that. Chris is everywhere. Chris is everywhere. But this is a problem, and it is important to have a content strategy in place because, again, I know I keep going to this, but trust is so important. And if you're not consistently putting it out, and it doesn't have to be all the time, you can be once a fortnight, right? But just making sure you're constantly keeping up with that, because if you just throw a few posts, get really excited for a couple weeks, and then you don't touch it for months, people are going to go and go, is this company still
keep up to date.
Is this company still even open? Like, what's going on? It almost looks worse when it just is dead than when you don't have anything. So it's important once you create that to kind of create that content strategy. And you can do everything in a day. Just one day, sit down and make 5 different posts, and that can keep you going for a while. But consistency is so important when it comes to this.
Good with traditional versus digital?
I was going to say, well, that being said, I guess this is the as we get kind of to the real sort of meat of the digital side of things, and what are the really big benefits out of going digital and really embracing that as a marketing channel. Some of the things that we love so much is, we talked earlier about audience, and that's where digital works really well compared to a lot of other traditional advertising mediums, where you kind of put this sort of blank canvas or this broad marketing activities that target everyone. If you look at billboards on the side of the road, for instance, it's like anyone going past. Well, of that, how big's your actual customer base or potential people to use your products or your services? It's so small, and yet you're spending to get in front of all of those eyeballs. Whereas when we look at the digital side of things, if it's social media, we can profile people based on demographics, psychographics, and we can sort of target and refine those audiences that we want to speak to. If we look at it even from a geographic aspect, we can kind of really refine the audience. On search, we can do the same thing. We can look at it from a geographic point of view. We can look at specific keywords. So it's not just I'm looking for a lawyer, but I'm looking for a divorce lawyer, family lawyer, those sorts of things. You just refine it that little bit, and you can go further again. We say, look, I'm looking for a divorce lawyer in Hunters Hill. So you can get really refined in exactly who we're trying to target. And that means that when you look at the other benefit of a digital, that cost of acquisition.
Exactly.
When you get really specific around the type of audience you're looking for, and you're only paying for that, they're most likely to convert, because they realize, and as your website, your landing page speaks specifically to that audience, when they hit the site, they go, I'm in the right spot. These are the people that can absolutely help me. And so then they're gonna convert into a lead. And so your cost of acquisition drops dramatically because we're appealing to less people, and
your cost per click might be up a bit, but as you say, the important metric is the cost per acquisition. So it's how many of those, because there's no point having 1,000 clicks if one of them then converts, because that cost per acquisition is pretty significant. But if you're getting, right down to numbers where you've got a small number of people that when they're clicking through, they're actually going all the way through and they're contacting you and you're acquiring them. And
It
that's
can be
utopia.
absolutely. Well, it can be the difference. It's the make or break between a campaign working or not working. And it also means that when you look at all your competition, the better refined it is and the better the conversion rates, you're right, you can spend more on that cost per click and still be more profitable than your competition. And that's where the real magic is. So we can run, we run ad campaigns for lawyers where it's $30, $40 a click. That's per click. And you think, hang on a second, how are we going to make money out of that?
Exactly.
That hurts. But if you look at it from a landing page, like a traditional landing page or a common sort of generic one, you might see a sort of a 5% conversion rate. That's 1 in 20. So you look at your cost per click at $30 and then multiply that by 20. Like, okay, right, I'm spending $600 here on acquiring one inquiry.
Yeah.
And you go, that hurts.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Whereas if I was to then say, well, actually, instead of spending, trying to go after that many people, if I had a better converting landing page where I can convert, let's say, 1 in 6, there's $180 to pick up a new lead. Well, that's actually, you know what? I can afford to do this. And in fact, I can afford to spend $40 per click. And guess what? My competition can't. And so now I'm ahead of the competition. And that's the beauty in terms of digital, because you get that refinement. It's not like, oh, I just put 10 grand in and then I'll run a newspaper ad for the weekend. I hope that it works. No, you've got this thing running all the time. You've got people specifically looking for a key service.
And you're talking about the setup. What I find really exciting, mostly when you're putting your own money in it, you're putting your business's money into it, is that the quick, agile A and B testing, right? So if you're putting up a billboard, you're like, hope this works because it's there for a month, right? It's stuck there. Oh, didn't realize that pole was covering it, But with digital, you can put up A and B testing and you go, this one's not working. And instantly the money goes towards, B. And you can see exactly what's happening and change and shift your costs to fix what's actually showing you because of the reporting that's coming out. The such smart reporting. You're seeing exactly who's clicking and what's happening. And you can be so quick about updating that and utilizing your money to the best of its ability.
Absolutely spot on. That's one of the things that we love. In any campaign that we sort of run, we will absolutely run multiple campaigns, multiple ad groups, multiple ads. And while we use our best marketing knowledge about scientifically what would work, because it's that balance of art and science in marketing. Even when you sort of know, okay, that ticks all of the boxes theoretically. It's not until you put it out into the marketplace that you realize between 2 or 3 different ads, all of a sudden it skews one particular way, and that's great. And the joys with digital is we can test that and know that that's working versus traditional ones where you go, I've just got to pick which one I think is going to be the right ad, go out there and hope that works. And it's amazing just how much you see the skew where one ad will perform at double, triple the other ad.
For no reason.
And that could just be different font. It could be different. It could be different. It could be a different tagline, and that's why we're talking about how essential these small things are. Because when we're talking about this one moment where they're looking at this, they're looking at that one bit of content, that one image or video that's playing behind, the colors and the font. And that's how they're deciding, am I going to click on this? Is this someone I want to learn more about? It's based on that second they're looking at that as they're scrolling through or seeing something. So,